Mobile device applications, or apps, are something our smartphone culture is quite familiar with, so for question of what's new about new media, we decided to conduct research in regards to mobile device applications. To be more specific of this broad topic, we will be covering a brief history of apps, the creation of apps, entering the app world, usefulness of apps for different types of consumers, as well as some societal impact of apps. By evaluating mobile device applications, we are demonstrating the interactivity and customization that apps allow for smartphone users. The first type of applications that resembled today's mobile apps were mostly games that imitated the arcade-type games such as the Snake and utilities such as calculators, ringtone editors, and things like that. The basic games were very popular in the first generations of cell phones. Since these first generations of mobile phones were designed and developed by the same manufacturers, there was no space for individual developers to try and create new softwares that would work with these devices. Competition was fierce and trade secrets were closely guarded. No one wanted to expose the secrets of their handsets, so they developed the phone software in-house. This was a barrier to innovations. On July 10th of 2008, Apple creates the first ever version of an app market called the App Store, with 500 apps which were compatible only with Apple phones running iOS, which are the iPhones. Apple was the pioneer in the concept of a market dedicated specifically to mobile applications created by numerous third-party developers. In October 22nd of 2008, the Android market was finally launched, with only 50 apps. The new concept of the Android OS was that it could be used in numerous devices from several different brands, which meant higher accessibility. By March of 2012, the Android market was streamlined into Google Play, owned by Google, which was a platform not only for apps but also for music, movies, and books to download to mobile phones. By then, both the iOS and the Android systems had thousands of apps that were already being widely adopted by smartphone users. Then came the release of Apple's first generation of the iPad in April of 2010, and the first Android tablet in February of 2011 by Motorola. The concept of tablets started catching on, even though they had existed for roughly 20 years before but never went mainstream. Mobile apps became popular not only for use in cell phones but also started being widely adopted in tablets. From that point on, mobile apps became tools for real life. Apps have been developed for organizations, businesses, entertainment, education, health and weight loss, and numerous other purposes.
As we look at this website by Visual Light, it gives us a layout with graphs called mobile apps by the numbers, allowing us to see what platforms are used most by apps and what apps are best on each platform. They also provide other information as well, focusing on costs and usage of apps.
The steps to create an app are: develop a monetization and marketing plan, which includes promoting your app. Then, sign up for a developer account, which has a small fee of $99 per year. Next, design your app, which is the technical part of the process. Finally, maintain your app, which means hiring a team to keep up with your app.
Apps have a variety of purposes to them. One of their purposes are to be an educational tool. Marie Novak found that since 2009, not only has all purchases and creations of apps in the iTunes Store gone up, but also a huge increase in creation and purchases of educational apps. A majority of educational apps are created to be focused between the ages of 2 and 8. Even educational apps have categories that are more frequently bought, and those are games, ebooks, and creations. Most of these apps are drill and skill apps that pull children away from socialization with others. Even though this is a downfall for the children, apps have aided children to develop language and vocabulary more quickly, becoming masters in them faster than before. There are also apps that help those with disabilities, and a few examples are the deaf and blind. Demi book composers have created apps that have been able to aid the deaf in monumental ways. Some of their apps give opportunities for the deaf to learn how to speak by association of images with vibrations of sounds. Many apps have helped improve the young deaf children's literacy rate, because there are challenges that the deaf face in education like visual learning, syntax, simplified text, and diagnosis of deafness, and a few other reasons. Demi book composers hope that their apps will help cross these barriers and create applications that will give them more access to the deaf to learn. Ming Wang found that touchscreen technology comes with many barriers that cause the blind to not be able to access a simple phone call. Applications have helped the blind with simple tasks like note-taking, phone calls, and reading text messages. Some apps that have been highly used by the blind are Color ID, apps that help them identify colors, Digit Eyes, apps that allow them to scan items with their phone's camera and the phone's voiceover will read what the item is aloud, and Money Reader, allowing them to identify the currency and denomination of the bill.
As apps become increasingly popular on all our mobile devices, there are speculations that they are beginning to take over websites accessed via web browsers in terms of number of minutes spent per day. Apps are cheap, fun, and useful. They are creating increased interactivity between consumers and their mobile devices in ways previously unseen. Apps are also changing the way we use the internet because, according to Susan Crawford, Harvard professor, apps are like cable channels, closed, proprietary, and cleaned-up experiences. According to Parmi Olson in November of 2013, new messaging apps are potentially threatening mobile carriers as well as established social media giants. Mobile operators are estimated to have lost $23 billion in SMS revenue in 2012 due to messaging apps such as WhatsApp, China's WeChat, South Korea's KakaoTalk, and Snapchat. But the real question lies in why is this occurring? According to Olson, teens are opting to take conversations and social interactions to messaging applications on their smartphones for greater privacy online, notably from relatives that have now taken to popular social media sites such as Facebook. Many of these apps are now getting into game production, sticker production, like the picture on the left, and music sharing. This greater variety within the app makes it increasingly more difficult to define them as purely messaging applications. But nonetheless, the popularity of apps are increasing as newer products are being developed. In conclusion, apps make media more interactive than ever before, letting the user create new content with simple steps. Users can now control the media as they wish, since apps allow for the total customization of devices. The diversity of apps gives access to educational tools at the touch of a button, also helping those who need it most. Creating an app is faster than creating a new program, but just as effective as a full-size software. So what's new about new media? Apps are constantly bringing new types of media to our fingertips and making the process much simpler than ever before.